You're not allowed, Joe.
Thank you very much, Mike. Welcome everyone who's watching and participating in this virtual Cabinet meeting today. I'm Councillor Kevin Guy. I'm the Councillor for Bathhampton North and the leader of Bath and North East Somerset Council. I'll just make a brief statement at the very beginning. Due to the rise in COVID numbers and the desire to retain a level of social distancing at council meetings, we are holding this informal virtual Cabinet meeting to enable Cabinet, councillors and members of the public to take part. This virtual meeting will be conducted in the normal manner, but as any decisions will not be legally enforceable, they will be formally made at the physically reduced quorum decision-making meeting tomorrow on the 1st of April. We will review this approach at any future Cabinet meetings in line with government health guidance at the time. I'd just like to go around the room and ask the Cabinet to introduce themselves, please, and their roles. Start with Councillor Samuel.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Richard Samuel. I represent Walcott Ward and I'm the Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Resources.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Warren.
Councillor Sarah Warren from Bathhampton North Ward, Cabinet Lead for Climate Emergency and Sustainable Transport.
Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Ball.
Councillor Tim Ball, Cabinet Member for Planning and Licensing and Ward Member for Twerton.
Councillor Davies.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Tom Davis. I represent Walcott Ward and I'm the Joint Cabinet Member for Adult Services and Council House Building.
Thank you, Tom. Councillor Rigby.
Hello, I'm Amanda Rigby. I serve Bathwick Ward and I'm Cabinet Member for Transport.
Thank you, Amanda. Councillor Wood.
Dave Wood, Councillor for Mendip Ward, Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services.
Thank you, Dave. And Councillor Romero.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Dina Romero. I'm Councillor for Southdown and I'm the Cabinet Member for Children, Young People, Communities and Culture.
Thank you very much, Dina, and thank you very much, Cabinet. We'll move on to apologies for absence. I believe we have one apology. Joe, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. We have an apology from Councillor Alison Bourne, who has another official engagement.
Thank you very much for that. Noted. Declarations of interest, item number 3. There has been none declared. That's correct, Joe?
None notified to me, that's right.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Are there any notifications from the floor? No. Splendid. Okay. Right. Urgent business agreed by the chair. I do have a brief statement to make, which I'll do now. I'd like to make a statement on the next steps of Bath Approach Golf Course on High Common site. As we pass 2 years since a temporary closure of Approach Golf Course, I'm conscious of the importance of securing the future of this much loved and important green space. A petition to keep golf at the site received over 5,000 signatures and a GoFundMe campaign attracted many generous pledges of support. This site has always been amicably shared by a variety of users, with golf on offer for over 60 years. Residents and visitors of all ages and abilities have been able to play regularly or simply to have a go. Priced to be affordable and socially inclusive, the spectacle of golf played on the common has been an iconic feature of Bath's recreational scene for many years. In May last year, I made a commitment of keeping golf on the approach course. It is a valuable operation being identified at the moment. Restoring this important leisure facility is consistent with our plans to enable more people to do more activities more often, improving both health and well-being for our citizens. As we emerge from the pandemic, the time is right to look at this provider again. Together with Golf for All, this is an exciting opportunity for a vibrant CAF, reopening the public toilets and enhancing the existing green environment. Subject to council business processes, there will now be a procurement process, starting with a market engagement exercise with a view of awarding a contract in August. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, we move on to item number 5, which is questions from the public and councillors. I can confirm that there have been 30 questions from councillors, and I believe we have received 5 supplementary questions. That's correct, is it not, Joe? Yes.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, all answers for the questions have been submitted to the respondents. We will move straight on to the first supplementary question, and that is from Councillor Vic Pritchard, reference question 14, to Councillor Rigby, I believe. Councillor Pritchard, are you here? I can't hear you, Vic, if you are here. Mike, can we confirm if Councillor Pritchard's here? If not, we'll move on.
He is in the list of attendees, Chair.
Yes. Okay, well, we can't hear you at the moment, Vic, so we'll move on to Councillor Warrington. Are you here?
I am, thank you, Chair.
Hi, Councillor Warrington. I believe you have a supplementary for question 19 to Councillor Rigby.
I do. Since I submitted this question, events have moved on. It turns out the Bath Half Marathon has indeed been postponed again. The organisers clearly state that the failure to complete the Cleveland Bridge works in a timely manner is to blame. This has come just a few weeks after the Cabinet member gave an assurance that events such as the Bath Half Marathon would not be affected. So I ask again, is this assurance, as this assurance has turned out to be utterly meaningless, will the Cabinet member do the honourable thing and resign?
Councillor Rigby, would you like to respond to the question?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much. And I believe that this is going to come up in a statement later as well from Councillor Warrington. The answer to the question is very, very clear. As stated by the Council on its official news feed, the postponement of the Bath Half Marathon had absolutely nothing at all to do with any ongoing works that may still be occurring at Cleveland Bridge at the time. I can't say that clearly enough. There was no reason from the Council's perspective why the Bath Half Marathon should not go ahead. That being the case, I would hope that Councillor Warrington would do the decent thing and withdraw her request for my resignation on the grounds that what I said was going to happen has patently obviously happened.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. I'm sure Councillor Warrington will withdraw that request. Moving on to Councillor Paul May, reference a supplementary question for question 22. Councillor May.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to address my question to Councillor Bourne, but I hope Councillor Davies perhaps can answer it. So thank you for your answer. I appreciated your commitment given to the scrutiny panel. My additional question related to why officers believe that councillors on scrutiny panels cannot be trusted to receive confidential or commercially exempt information when the law clearly allows for this in a closed session. I'm on the Avon Pension Fund Committee, which regularly deals with confidential information in exempt sessions. So why cannot a scrutiny committee be bound by the same process?
Okay, thank you, Councillor May. I think Councillor Romero, you were going to answer that one on behalf.
Well, I was, but I just wanted to check why Councillor May wanted. I thought you said Councillor Bourne to Councillor David to answer it.
I think it's probably because they share the portfolio, Dina. But yeah.
Okay, so sorry. Right. My apologies for a little cough there. Just going to your question then of whether or not this could, some of this could be held in an exempt session. As far as I am aware from speaking to officers on this issue earlier this week, that is absolutely the case, and that could be how we take this forward when it comes to scrutiny.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Romero. While you're here, Councillor May, I believe you have a supplementary question for question 27 directed at Councillor Davies.
Right, thank you. I got it right this time. Thank you, Councillor Davies. Many years ago, before your time and mine, Baines stopped being a direct housing provider and Curo now own the former social housing stock. If you are delivering 53 units in the near future but have not sorted out all of the commitments owning properties means, this seems odd. Will the housing stock pay for itself in capital revenue terms if it is being funded directly by the council, including housing repair costs, long-term improvements, housing benefits, rent enforcement, tenancy legal agreements, rent collections, right to buy and tenant disputes? Could you please provide a fully costed breakdown of the cost benefit calculation for scrutiny? Because once constructed, the council must have all such procedures in place. if not provided in-house, there will be contract costs and an economy of scale involved for such a few homes.
Thank you, Councillor May. Councillor Davis, would you like to reply?
Yeah, Councillor May, thank you very much indeed for your interest in our new council house building programme. It's much appreciated. I think given the length and the content of the questions, if you don't mind, I'll come back to you with a written response within 5 days. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor May, for your questions. Really appreciate that. Do we have, I'd like to go back to Councillor Pritchard. Can you hear us okay? I think you're muted, Vic. You're still muted, I'm afraid. Sorry. It seems like Councillor Pritchard is having a few technical problems.
Right. Is it working now?
Yes, we can hear you okay. I believe you have a
Right,
supplementary question to question 14.
Okay, then. So this is in response to question 14. And first off, I'd like to commend the officer who composed the answer to this question for their honesty in disclosing a very uncomfortable truth. This traffic island, put there primarily for pedestrian safety, in a location, incidentally, where there's never been an accident, has had, according to Pensford Parish Council, it's in excess of 12 accidents as a result of its introduction. It was quite a soft option initially because it was one of those plastic signs that if there's a collision, there's not any real damage, but it's just an embarrassment. But officers sought to reinforce the barrier itself by introducing a curbing system. So it's now been removed and a build out to compensate for its removal. If it's had 12 accidents on that location, in that location where there's previously never been an accident, how does it contribute to highway safety? And why was it not taken out after perhaps 1 or 2 accidents? Why did it have to have 12 accidents before it was realised it was an embarrassing mistake? And who's accountable?
Thank you for your supplementary questions, Councillor Pritchard. They're directed to Councillor Rigby, I assume. Councillor Rigby, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you very much. I will get you a fuller answer in 5 days, Councillor Pritchard, but I can assure you that we have been working incredibly closely with the local community, and it was at their request that we looked at putting a safety barrier in the first place. And of course, we then do take it out when it proves not to do what we hoped it would have done. And we have already gone back to Pensford and said, what is it that we now can do working with you? I'll come up with what we've thought of as a proper solution to a problem that was given to us by the community. This wasn't something that we just imposed.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. Councillor Pritchard, you have a supplementary question for question 17 as well.
I do.
And that's
yeah.
directed, sorry, Councillor Warren.
Yes, and the answer provided, I'm afraid, is out of date because it may have been appropriate for the previous cabinet meeting. But
Councillor Pritchard, sorry, you're not here to comment on the answer. You can ask your second supplementary question, please, to Councillor Warren.
Thank you for the interruption. I was trying to be helpful. So I'll move on now then. That since that answer was provided, it's become outdated because there's been another meeting with myself and my colleague, the Ward Councillor Karen Warrington, together with highways officers and a representative of the farming community. And the measures that have been taken are inappropriate because the farm machinery will have to mount the curb if it actually has to go through that. And it's denying the passage for agricultural vehicles still. Incidentally, you might also choose to look on Facebook and see how the residents in the Chew Valley are receiving this new scheme. They say it's an accident waiting to happen. You might reflect on that as well.
I believe that was that actual question?
Sorry, was there a question?
Statement? Yeah.
The question is what are you going to do? Because what you've done at the moment is an accident waiting to happen, and it still denies access to agricultural vehicles.
Councillor Warren, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I'm happy to come back in the next 5 working days. Perhaps if there are specific issues, Councillor Pritchard, you could pop them in an email to me so that we can make sure we address any specific concerns or issues.
I've done that previously on numerous occasions.
I will leave you to liaise with the Cabinet member, Councillor Pritchard. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Warren. Thank you for those supplementary questions, councillors. We shall move on to item number 6, which is statements, deputations and petitions from the public and councillors. I think the first statement is to be made by Councillor Samuel, please.
Yes, Chairman, I would like some clarification. It has been stated publicly by Councillor Pritchard in a Bath North East Somerset Conservative news release, and I quote, "People should have to submit their speech to be vetted by Cabinet members is an affront to democracy. I would like to ask the monitoring officer to confirm that Cabinet members have no involvement in vetting statements by councillors or members of the public. Could I have that clarification, please?"
Councillor Samuel, I'm quite happy to confirm that. Officers have to ensure that statements pass a threshold test, and that is purely an officer function. Cabinet members do not censure or vet statements.
Thank you, Michael. That was my understanding. So I look forward to the Conservative Party correcting its lies in social media. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Councillor Samuel, for that statement. We will move on to Mr. Ridgewell, please. David, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, David. Welcome.
My statement is, thank you. My statement is again about the concerns about public transport and the city regional transport strategy, and then how we deliver it with the West of England Combined Authority and the Mayor and North Somerset Council. The list I've provided tonight in my statement is obviously a list of buses that are about to be withdrawn in Bath and North East Somerset and the rest of the West of England and North Somerset from the 24th of April. That will in fact bring the level of percentage now from 90% the government expects first and other operators to operate down to 84%. With going down to 84%, we start to see service cuts and service delivery. Some of the frequencies in Bath itself will drop drastically in terms of 20 minutes and 30 minutes services on some routes. Some of the night bus services to Bristol won't start in the city, but will start at the Globe at Newton St Low. And the connectivity from Keynsham and Bath to the North Fringe, where we have employment, will become extremely difficult. It will not be possible to go from Bath and change buses in Down End to go into Yate, where you have a lot of distribution and warehouse jobs that people go and work on night shifts and then come back by bus the following morning. Equally, those sort of connectivities are available from Keynsham as we speak tonight, and from Bath up towards Thornbury and the Aztec West trading estates. All those journeys in the future will require a travel into Bristol and come out of Bristol again, and then have to take direct buses or use the train service from Keynsham and Bath to the North Fringe. So it's making public transport in the city region much more difficult. So I suppose the point I'm making to Sarah and to the WECA four councillors that deal with transport is we really need to, for the bus service improvement plan and the enhanced quality partnership, tie first and the other operators down to some service level agreements. Because the fear I have at this rate is that we're going to build an awful lot of infrastructure, which we fully support, new bus lanes, new bus stops, new cycle facilities on main corridors out of Bath to Radstock and Midsummer and on or towards Bristol, or from Wales, Glastonbury Street up through the A37, Pensford and Clutton into Bristol, and find that the level of bus service will be greatly reduced. So I am concerned that we need to make sure that we actually go and get the service level agreements sorted out. The next round of changes is going to be August, and I think there's a lot of work to do there. On COVID, we've got a lot of bus drivers off ill and a lot of services not running. And the point I'd make to the Director of Public Health in Bath, and I'd ask for some support, is to make sure that proper cleaning standards are maintained with all bus company fleets at the present time. I think that is absolutely essential. and also in bus stations. So I'd ask that this issue be looked at along with the disappointing news that we're going to see further train cuts through Bath on the service that runs from Great Marlborough to Brighton, which calls it Keynsham and Oldfield Park, and through Bath itself, and then through the West Wilts towns, Freshford, and through to Bradford, Navan and Westbury. So I'd ask again, we look at that with the Department for Transport, make sure we have a level of suburban local train services that suit the conurbation in the West of England Combined Authority area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rachel, and thank you very much for your useful, constructive comments per normal. And I am meeting the Wecker Mayor tomorrow, and I will bring those issues up with him directly, and as you've already done yourself. I believe, Councillor Warren, would you like to ask a factual question, David? Yeah.
Yes, thanks, David. With the facts in your knowledge, do you think the current round of cuts to the bus service threaten its long-term recovery as part of the necessary modal shift we need to see in response to the climate emergency?
I'm extremely concerned, to be honest with you, Councillor Warren. That's why I've written to you privately as well, that we need to do something. We need to act, the four leaders. I'm grateful the leader of council's taking out with Marvin and with Don Davis and with Toby to see if we can hold this to account, because when that £150 million is removed from the English network in October, if we allow it to be removed, I think seems to become seriously difficult, because we're not up to anywhere near 90% of passengers going back onto public transport, onto buses or trains. And I certainly don't believe the figure this morning of 80% I suddenly saw for the railways. I think that's about the southeast of it. It's anything to do with the west of England. So it really needs some proper work on it. We need to protect that bus network. I'm extremely alarmed, extremely worried about it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rachel. Thank you for your time and your statement. Thank you. We'll move on to the second speaker. Is Mrs. Tay McLean there, please? Mrs. McLean?
Yes.
Hello,
yes.
If you're not familiar, you've got 3 minutes to talk, and you can start whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. Oops. There we go. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Bathhampton Meadows. It has become more and more convoluted, the news pertaining to the transaction that was executed on behalf of Bain's residents. The news is as available in the public domain so far. It's as follows. Transfer of public ownership of nearly 25 hectares of grazing meadows to the National Trust for a peppercorn and a 15.6 hectare parcel of private land belonging to New Leaf Farm was sold to the National Trust for fair market value, reportedly in the region of 915,000. These deals were done simultaneously. The two justifications for the peppercorn for transferring the community asset are: one, social and economic benefits worth 2.3 million over 30 years, which the council judged are far exceed not only the restricted but also the unrestricted value of the asset. Two, that a peppercorn reward for handing over that 2.3 million benefit is because any cash from the sale could not have been used on day-to-day services anyway. Factual information, as far as I can ascertain, are the projected 2.3 non-monetary benefits exist even without the National Trust involvement. Nonetheless, I believe most residents are delighted that the National Trust has taken over a large section of the meadows. In March 2020, surveyors gave a restricted value of its land at Bathhampton Meadows of 460,000 or
1 minute.
Or an unrestricted value of 915,000. The authority had been receiving an annual rent from a farmer of 3,500. Therefore, it looks like the owner of the New Leaf parcel land got the 915 instead of Bain's residents, and we lost the annual income rent of 3,500. Proceeds from the community transfer can be used for purchasing of replacement capital assets and for services, contrary to council's justification of the peppercorn deal. As far as I understand, no public consultation with Baines residents, not transparent governance and scrutiny processes were carried out prior to the transfer. The former Baines land is part of Bath Riverline project, where Baines residents are consulted at each stage of development. There have been several heated debates in the social media, which have led to much speculation and uncomplimentary views of the peppercorn deal. Until we get clarification, especially about the direct and indirect interest of our council leader and his family in those two related or tied transactions, it looks like this saga will continue to the detriment of the council and the community. It's the end of my statement, and I have included 6 references. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. McLean. I believe there is a factual question from Councillor Samuel, please.
Thank you, Tate, for your statement. Unfortunately, it contains a number of inaccuracies. There are some things in your statement which are actually not true, and I need to correct those for you. The acquisition by the National Trust of Bathhampton Meadows and New Leaf Farm were not linked purchases. The transfer of Bathhampton Meadows as a community asset transfer to the National Trust was completed before the National Trust concluded negotiations to acquire the land at New Leaf Farm. They were not linked purchases, and they were funded in different ways by the National Trust. So I think it's important to set that out. I'm perfectly happy, if you would like, to respond to your statements. I'll give you an email, and if you're happy to receive that, I will make the corrections for you so that you have the correct facts. But I'm afraid some of the facts you put out are correct, and they are a matter of public record. There's one thing I wanted to ask you. Are you aware that within the council's decision-making process, it is always open to any member of the council, any 10 members of the council, to call in a decision made either by a cabinet member or an officer or the cabinet if they disagree with it? And the decision that I made on the transfer of Bathhampton Meadows was not called in by any councillors. So one would assume that they were happy with it. So that is a correct process. Were you aware that that was a possibility?
No.
Okay. Well, I will reply to you if that's helpful to you, so that you can, we make sure that we have the correct facts. But
yes. May I ask one quick question here?
That's up to the chairman.
What I'll do, Mrs. McLean, I will allow you to have an email exchange with Councillor Samuel so he can answer all of your factual questions. But thank you very much for your statement and your time. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Councillor Kumar, please. You've got a statement to make?
Yes. Can my video be on, please?
Yeah, you can put your video on, Councillor Kumar.
I can't do it myself. It has to be done by the host.
Oh.
I hope you understand the technology.
Councillor, I'm asking you to start your video. You need to press it at your end. Thank you.
Yeah, now I got the message and now I can. Obviously, I can't speak on my own, so I will have to open my speech, which I have submitted in advance. Okay, so I start from here. Chair, when I read the local paper or social media, or indeed when I talk with hundreds of my residents, I despair how this council is now viewed by so many. Just 5 minutes ago, one of the former councillor wrote this current council is careless. The common theme is it is on a mission to destroy. This is their word, not mine. While the leaders of Conservative and Labour group both have confirmed officially that they did not support submission of speeches in written for any council meetings, the current administration under your leadership has tried to railroad this through, which is a disgrace, basically. If you are listening, council, Why shall you want to read anything 2 days in advance? It's so boring for me now to make this kind of a statement because it is all in front of you. Why we are wasting our time? One of the former councillor even said that his speech was censored, his word. Are we living in Xi Jinping's Jinan, from whom, the chair, you have received many emails, but you do not even have time to reply them? Or are we under the administration of dictator Putin? These demands are ultra-virus and unconstitutional, a resident writes on social media. I don't think that the council has the powers to do this without approval from the full council and councillors, but I raise my hand. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I reckon this is wrong. Just this week, a resident wrote to me, and I quote, "In the last 66 years of my time in Bath, I have never seen such a poor leadership, such a selfish administration."
1 minute.
Many are citing the Nolan principles, the basis of the ethical standard expected of public office holders, including my own, and state that some of us here are falling very well short. Colleagues, in the last few months, Bath has featured many times in Rotten Borough section of the magazine Private Eyes. And a member of the British cabinet has stood in the mother of all parliaments and at the temple of democracy and raised the nasty issue of racism in Bath's political life. This is extremely disappointing. How has it come to this? Colleagues, karma. The spiritual principle of cause and effect. Karma, colleagues, karma. What you sow, you reap. And that's why you are being featured so many times in Rotten Borough. You are aware of my claims of bullying.
Thank
is
you,
it one minute more or what? Is it time is up?
I will allow you to quickly sum up, very, very quickly, Councillor Kumar.
Because you need to tell me 1 minute. I always get ready for that. Okay.
I did,
just half a
Councillor
second.
Kumar.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Kumar.
Okay, then. Bye.
I have to give you some time to sum up very quickly, if you so wish.
Okay. Okay, then. Thank you. So basically, when the leader of the council, you take more than 1,000 days to update your register of interest, which should be 28 days, then it raises many kind of questions. So we need to be more transparent and be careful to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statements. I don't have any factual questions, and I don't believe any other cabinet member does. But thank you for your time on this issue. Councillor Pritchard, please. I believe you have a statement to make as well, please. Unfortunately, Councillor Pritchard, you're on mute again.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you fine. 3 minutes starts whenever you're ready.
Right. I look forward to meetings in person, I really do, but there you go. So good evening, Cabinet. Tonight, I wish to talk about the transfer of land at Bathhampton Meadows to the National Trust and give the leader of the council the opportunity to clear up a bit of confusion around any involvement he may or may not have had in the deal. In February 2021, the council transferred land at Bathhampton Meadows to the National Trust for free. Almost a year later, the trust announced it had bought the adjoining piece of land from a company called Depair Limited. Both the husband and the father-in-law of the leader of the council are directors of Depair Limited. Nothing wrong there. Except that is, when you consult the decision note signed by Councillor Richard Samuel in February 2021, that approved the transfer of land from the council to the National Trust. The note is clear that the current leader of the council was consulted, but further down the page, the box marked "any conflict of interest declared by anybody consulted" is oddly blank. If both the husband and the father-in-law of the leader of council are directors of Depair Limited, Surely that would constitute a conflict of interest. Why, then, is it not stated in the decision note? The Leader of Council has repeatedly claimed that he has nothing to do with Deep Air Limited. In a recent Somerset Live report, he said, and I quote, "I have nothing to do with my father-in-law's business, and neither does my husband." However, discussions about the council's potential deal with the National Trust took place at a Bathhampton area forum meeting in February 2020. At this meeting, the Leader of Council said, and I quote, "My father-in-law owns a stretch of land. The National Trust are in negotiations with him. I'm persuading him gently." Let me restate that. I'm persuading him gently. There's recently a flurry of changes to the Leader of the Council's online register of interests, with his husband's directorship of Deep Air Limited being stated for the first time earlier this month. Surely this information should have been included on the register at the time that the land transfer was undertaken. I and many other residents would appreciate it if the Leader of the Council would tonight clear up this confusion so we can all close the matter and move on. Failing that, I'd have no other choice but to support residents' cause for a full and independent investigation. If any of the statements I've made tonight are factually wrong, I'd be most happy for them to be corrected. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. I haven't commented on this issue today, so I will move on to Councillor Samuel. I think I may have a factual question for you.
Well, Councillor Pritchard, you invited a correction of your statement, and I'm very happy to be able to provide that for you. Are you aware, for example, that a Mr. Graham Pristow, I think I have that name correct, made a formal complaint to the council on this same subject on the 1st of March this year? And in his complaint, he asked 7 questions, and I'm going to recite them for you and provide the answer to Mr. Pristow's complaint. And in doing this, I should make it clear that both Mr. Pristow and the Leader have agreed to the publication of the complaint, which I think will deal with most of the issues that you've raised. Now, the first thing I need to say before I go into that, I have to repeat what I said to Mrs. McLean. These were not linked purchases. The community asset transfer, which incidentally is not a free giveaway of land, as you just said, it is the transfer of land under very specific conditions, and the specific conditions are the community benefit is provided, and that is valued independently of the council. All of this was in the decision report that I signed back in February 21. And that is a matter of public record. And you as an opposition leader and an opposition councillor were perfectly entitled to see if you could get 9 other members to call in the decision. You failed to do that at the time, despite the fact all the information that is there today is the same as it was then. However, there is a correction I have to make to your statement. Councillor Guy was not the Leader of the council in February 21. That was Councillor Romero. So if there was any consultation, it would have been with Councillor Romero, and that is exactly what happened. I kept Dina fully involved and advised about progress of this, and Councillor Guy, and we have this on record, took no part in the decisions on the transfer of Bathhampton Meadows. So I just repeat that. He took no part in it, and his absence from meetings where it was discussed is recorded. So that's the first thing I want to say. So going on to Mr. Pristow's complaint, I'll just read the questions out and the answers that independent investigators have concluded. So he asked, what was the process by which a decision was made to transfer the land at no cost? And that is detailed in quite a lot of detail. And the investigator's view is that the processes followed in the community asset transfer were satisfactory and compliant with the council's policies. Question 2, who was consulted on this and when? And the investigator reports the consultation was in line with expectations. In other words, it followed the council's normal processes. Question 3, at what point was a decision made to give the land away for no charge? And again, the investigator passes no comment on that. He says the decision-making process had probity and the decision timing was appropriate. Question 4, who was involved in shaping that decision? And the answer is the input into the processes where the proposal might have been reviewed and amended were reasonable. Question 5, what the feedback from the internal consultation with councillors before the decision in February 21 was, and who gave what views? And the investigator says no issues are discerned with the treatment of any internal consultation requirements, which were treated reasonably. Question 6, the reasoning behind allowing such a significant decision, giving away, and that's inverted commas by Mr. Bristow, giving away a public asset worth at least 460,000 by the officer's own accession to be a single member decision. Who was party to the reasoning? The conclusion is no issues exist that predicate against a single member decision. And the final question, why information on the conflict of interest of the consultee, Councillor Guy, was not included in the decision report. And the investigator concludes that it was perfectly acceptable in terms of the single member decision. The conclusion of the investigation, this is the important bit, the information researched indicates that there was adherence to policy, procedure and process in the transfer of Bathhampton Meadows, and it is not recommended the complaint is upheld. Now, I hope that is comprehensive enough. This matter has been independently investigated. The investigator has concluded that there is nothing to investigate any further. The report will be made available. You can read it. And of course, there are further stages to the council's complaints process if Mr. Bristow wishes to pursue those. But I had assumed that you would know that, as he appears to be a member of Bath Conservatives, and I understand may be standing in the 2023 election. So I had assumed that the networks within your party would have passed that information to you. You appear to be slightly behind the curve on this. So that's the end of my statement.
You're very well prepared.
Thank you very much, Councillor Samuel. And thank you very much for your question, Councillor Pritchard. That really does clear up everything you've asked there. Thank you very much. We'll move on to Councillor Warrington, please, your statement.
Thank you, Chair. Cabinet, I'm here today to talk to you, and I'm speaking on behalf of numerous residents who are exasperated by the ongoing Cleveland Bridge renovation works. First, let me be clear, and I'll say it again, let me be clear, that I understand and recognise just how important this project is, and I want you to take that in. Cleveland Bridge is one of our city's most treasured heritage assets, and this conservative effort is essential if it is to survive for future generations. I also welcome the fact that HGVs are currently unable to cross the bridge. Cleveland Bridge was not designed to transport such heavy loads, and we need to do as much as we possibly can to find a long-term solution that directs HGVs elsewhere. Despite this, serious questions need to be asked of the way in which this administration has handled the project. Work began on the 4th of May last year, and according to the timeline currently displayed on the council's website, the project should have been completed in November 2021. It's April next month. A 6-month project then looks as if it may end up taking a whole year. And I recognise there are some issues. I work in engineering companies and I know that things can go wrong. But a whole year, twice the time, anyway, the disruption caused by the project and its subsequent delays has been and remains severe. Congestion has increased, journey times are up, tourists have been put off visiting, and popular events have been postponed.
1 minute.
Communications have also been poor, with residents and indeed councillors kept in the dark. Updates from the Cabinet member have only been provided after they've been requested, and even then engagement only goes so far as issuing a press release. Earlier this month, the Cabinet member gave a guarantee that the Bath Half Marathon would not need to be postponed again due to the project being incomplete. And last week, the event organisers announced that due to the ongoing Cleveland Bridge works, the half marathon would be again postponed. Is the Cabinet member now saying that the organisers of the marathon are not telling the truth? And I will also remind Cabinet that when I was asked to resign for a far lesser impact on residents, visitors and our clean air, and therefore I will not withdraw the question as to whether or not the Cabinet member should resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warrington. Councillor Rigby, would you like to respond, please?
Yes, thank you. And first of all, thank you, Councillor Warrington. There's a lot at the beginning of your statement that I think we can all agree with. And particularly, I was very pleased to hear you say that you are keen to help us keep the HGVs from coming back over Cleveland Bridge. And I would encourage you to talk to your colleagues in Wiltshire to make sure that we can make that happen, because without their support, we are obviously struggling. So at the moment, the reason that we are having the HGVs coming back is out of our control. So if you have any influence at all with national government or a neighbouring authority, now is the time for you to show whether or not you are supporting your party or supporting Bath and North East Somerset. I will go back and ask you the question again, as I am allowed to, as a factual question, that I hope that you have read the statement that's on our newsroom. And I would invite you to consider how you can reconcile the statement that you have just made to Cabinet tonight with the truth that is printed and comes from our officer cohort about what happened with the Bath Half and its postponement. And whilst I absolutely accept that the projects, as you so rightly stated, at the beginning, we had hoped to be able to do it in a shorter time scale. Would you also accept that we have also said on the website at all times that this is a very, very, very tricky project? A lot of the things that we have to create are bespoke because there's no other bridges. And I do hope that your criticism, which was aimed as a political criticism at me, doesn't also impact the officers who, I have to say, have worked absolutely tirelessly with incredible restrictions on them in terms of supply of materials, in terms of supply of labour, in terms of COVID, to get to the point that we are now. So would you please comment on how you can reconcile what you have said tonight with the facts about how hard our officers have worked to deliver this project, and what we have said very, very clearly, that the Bath Half was not cancelled because of anything to do with Cleveland Bridge?
Councillor Warrington, would you like to answer
yes,
those
certainly.
questions?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Rigby, yeah, I have read the statement, and I read that when that came out through some of the media posts as well from the council. So I asked you a question in that statement. Are the organisers then not telling the truth? The organisers of the Bath Half Marathon, and that can easily be cleared up if you say that there's a miscommunication. That isn't a criticism of the officers. It's a criticism of the way that the Cabinet have handled this, or the administration have handled this. There hasn't been enough communication. Residents, by the way, I'm speaking on behalf of residents. People have been really impacted on this, and they haven't had enough communication, and they don't necessarily know what's going on in a timely manner. So that isn't down to the officers.
Thank you very much, Councillor Warrington. Appreciate your statement. Thank you very much. We shall move on to item number 7, which is the minutes of the meeting of the 10th of February, which is the virtual meeting, and the physical meeting on the 11th of February. Can I invite somebody to move those minutes to true record, please?
Happy to move, Chair.
Thank you, Samuel. I will second. All in favour those minutes are a true record, please raise your hand. I think that's unanimous, Joe. Excellent, brilliant. Thank you very much. Moving on, consideration of single member items. There are none. Item number 9, Consideration of matters referred to by policy development scrutiny bodies. There are none. Moving on, item 10, recent single member decisions taken. Ask Cabinet to note and report. There are none for debate either. So moving on to item number 11, which is substantive items of the meeting, which is the Adoption West contract extension. Could I call upon Councillor Romero to move these recommendations, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. What you have before you this evening is the formal request to extend the existing arrangements of Adoption West by 5 years. I am also seeking approval to amend the financial agreement for that period of the extension. And finally, to replace the current service specification to that of the draft variation agreement. As you will be aware, there has already been a small extension to this contract by 3 months. This extension was agreed by all partners. The partners, as you know, are the 6 local authorities who wholly own this company, which exists to deliver adoption services, a statutory obligation of all unitary authorities. I say this to make it clear that this type of company is not at risk from any form of takeover, hostile or otherwise. The company has successfully integrated services and has well-established governance, including cross-authority and cross-party scrutiny. I don't have a huge amount of extra to add to the paper, but hope you will endorse this extension, which has been agreed already by all the other partners. I'd just like to move recommendations 2.1 to 2.3, but I would also like to add the tiniest of amendments to 2.3, just to make it make a little more sense. I would like to start that sentence with the words "to note." Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Romero. Can I ask Councillor Samuel to second, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, I'm very happy to second this with the amendment that Councillor Romero has just referred to. This does represent a pragmatic way forward in the circumstances, and it does provide stability for this service for the future, a very important service. So I'm very happy to second the recommendations as described.
Thank you, Councillor Samuel. We'll move to the debate. Anybody wishing to make a comment? No, it looks like we're all fully supportive of this. Therefore, I shall move to the vote. All in favour? Raise your hand. Splendid, that's unanimous. And on behalf of the Cabinet and the Council, I'd like to thank all the officers that put in a tremendous amount of work to bring that report forward. So thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 12, a Heritage Services Business Plan for 22-27. Can I ask Councillor Romero to move the recommendations, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you. I think the pandemic and in particular the lockdowns have made us all realise how reliant council finances are on the income heritage services bring in. As you will have seen, there has been a reduction in the numbers of visitors across the 3 main assets. And you will recall that both Victoria Art Gallery and the Fashion Museum were closed for longer than the Roman Baths, and that the baths opened in a slow and carefully managed way to protect both visitors and also staff. The Victoria Art Gallery and Fashion Museum opened this time last year, having been closed for nearly a year as parts of the council's response to the COVID pandemic. Both museums also took a cautious approach to ensure visitor and staff safety. Clearly, with fewer visitors, income targets for 2020 to 2021 would not be met. Despite the outlook for visitor economy being unclear for the immediate future, there is more certainty as the plan moves forward into the later years. So the financial outlook for 2022-23 may not be at the same level as pre-pandemic, but performance is not expected to recover until 24-25. So I do need to stress the caveat, though, that although there are some early indicators, it is not certain what the pattern of visitor travel in or out of the country will look like. And so it is particularly hard to predict our own visitor numbers. Having said that, the plan does seek to build up visitor numbers as well as look at the future of the Fashion Museum once it leaves the assembly rooms. The necessary relocation gives the council a great opportunity to bring additional footfall to the heart of Bath's retail sector. I specifically ask in this paper for Cabinet approval to form a new charity to support the Fashion Museum and our ambitions for it. This charity would be akin to the Roman Baths Foundation with a similar focus on fundraising and delivery of projects. Sustainability and addressing the climate emergency are critical elements to be embedded in projects and into the financial recovery. Work on this at the Roman Baths has already started, although you probably won't see this now, since the great steel blades harnessing the thermal energy from the hot springs are now submerged in the waters of the King's Baths. It is predicted that this alone will save 30 tonnes of carbon each year. There are also other opportunities to build on, such as having achieved the second UNESCO inscription as part of the multi-site Great Spa Towns of Europe inscription. Please be aware, this is not just a business plan of possibilities and tempered aspirations. There are also some more prosaic matters, including the classic fixing the roof. This is the roof of the Victoria Art Gallery. There is plenty more within the plan, but I won't take up more time now to talk this through, as you will have already read the plan. Suffice to say, I am happy with the plan, and so move recommendations 2.1 and 2.2. Thank you.
Splendid. Thank you, Councillor Bearer. Ask Councillor Samuel to second, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm very happy to second this. Rob Campbell, the new head of service, has done a great job in turning this round as a forward-looking document in the relatively short time he's been with the council, and he's put some good thinking into what is ahead for the Heritage Service over the next few years. In seconding this, I do want to comment, though, on a rather curious message put out by the Conservatives. They seem, in retweeting a report from Somerset Live, which shows that the Roman Baths dropped down the most visited list, but the words "due to the pandemic" were missed from the Conservative release. You can see from the figures in the report that there is a very clear correlation between visitor numbers and the restrictions that the Conservative government imposed to close down these places over the last 2 years. So I'm very surprised to see the Conservatives once again being behind the curve and blaming a rethink on climate emergency policies for the drop in visitor numbers. This is quite an extraordinary conjunction, and it's of course complete rubbish. So with that, I do want to thank Rob and his team for the work that he's done on this. They show the council and they show council teams what is possible when you put this thinking into what is a very outward facing service and very much with a commercial edge to it. And this is a good report, and I commend it to the Cabinet and second those recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Samuel. Very wise words per normal. Can I move to the debate, please? Anybody wishing to comment on this item? Okay, don't seem to have any comments. That's great. Everyone's obviously very, very happy with the report. I'd just like to say our office is doing an amazing job with heritage, and us as Liberal Democrats, we are very, very keen to repeat that success with arts and culture throughout the city of Bath and throughout North East Somerset. It's really, really important to us as a party, and we're very, very keen to put arts and culture right on not just the UK map, but on the world map for Bath. So on that note, we will move to the vote, please. All in favour? Great. I think that's unanimous, Joe. Brilliant. That just leaves me to thank everybody at home, thank all the Cabinet members, thank all the officers, all the participants, and I will officially close the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.